Fallout 76 was released 8 years ago.
This release would be one of the most infamous falls from graces a beloved studio would ever have. Bethesda turned one of their fan-favorite franchises into a live service slot fest, monetized out the wazoo. The game was more broken than Bethesda usually aims for, and it was devoid of life, and more importantly, fun. With all this working in tandem, Fallout 76 had to be one of the worst releases of this era. But it's been 8 years.
And after hundreds of comments telling me it's better now, I think it's time to revisit Fallout 76 in 2026 and see for ourselves.
Has the game been remedied and thus fun to play, or does it just have a dedicated fan base that are frankly tired of being dunked on? Let's find out for ourselves. Before we start, if you are new to my videos,
I do a condensed playthrough section where I break down the experience. Some of that involves mild story elements and factions introduced. You can skip right to the marked conclusion section just to get my thoughts outright after 25 hours.
Okay, and with that, let's hop into Character Creator. I'm just continuing the trend of recreating book characters that I like, so
meet Carl Crawler with a mustache. We open in typical Fallout fashion, waking up in a vault and looking to leave it.
We are notably not chasing a kidnapped wife or child this time though.
This vault is a settler vault, meaning it's only been 25 years since the bombs dropped, and our duty is to head into the wasteland and start building society back.
Super intriguing premise, but it's also a large reason why the game had problems on launch. But we'll get to that in a second. My goals for day one are quite simple. I want to get a baseline for the game, the world, and the narrative taking place.
My knowledge of the game outside of the terrible things I heard around launch is fairly limited.
So finding a baseline is key before I start looking for the fun and the hooks of this game.
As I leave the vault, I'm greeted by a familiar face. I should have expected this, but frankly, I didn't, and the pure joy of seeing the ghoul outside as I roll up, voiced by Walton Goggins himself.
And not a speck of dirt on you.
This made me fanboy out probably too much.
Goggins' character is by far the best part of the Fallout TV series and a leading reason why I was excited to hop back into this universe. He gives me a quest to meet him somewhere, and I make sure I won't forget to meet up with the wandering cowboy when I finally find my feet.
First thing I want to note, the setting is just kind of perfect for me. As someone who's driven across eastern US, West Virginia has always been one of my favorites. The winding highways through the forest-abundant hills, there's just something that does it for me. Even with the weird Bethesda paint over everything, I'm genuinely excited to explore this world.
As I head toward the mission area, I have my first heart attack.
I don't know how multiplayer works in this game. Can I be shot on sight? I don't know. This is stressing me out. So when I see a man ahead of me on a cooking station, my antisocial tendencies lock me up, and I hope, by barely moving, that maybe he didn't see me. But as my cortisol spike starts to clear, I realize I'm looking at an NPC. Embarrassing? Yeah, I know.
But I guess it was a mutual feeling because as I get closer, he experiences a similar cortisol spike and dies.
What the fuck?
I'm glad this is a shared experience.
This is also where my question of what is new versus what was in the base game starts.
One of the game's biggest criticisms on launch was actually how devoid the world was of life.
Originally, the world was littered with tapes and notes the series is famous for, but vendors and NPCs were robots. The lived-in world aspect just wasn't there. This makes sense based on the timeline of Vault 76,
but it made for quite the boring exploring experience.
Fallout 76 has since revamped a lot of these things with the Wastelander updates, but
this question remains, what is new and what is the old design with stuff just layered on top?
For example, I've been finding a few NPCs scattered around various points of interest in this early part of the map. They seem mostly to be props, not really giving me more than a couple of voice lines, but it's better than nothing. Like, I meet this drunk gentleman at a pawn who mentions I should go to the local bar. This is the only real interaction I can get out of him. Wait, let me just check something real quick. Yeah, I was just curious.
My point is, I don't think these NPCs were originally here on launch. I think they were added in later, and that's why they're so glitchy right now.
Makes you think they were just planted around in the starter area to appease this early criticism.
I will be watching this.
I end up following that poor soul's final wish and head to that bar where I meet the barkeep and her friend Mort. Mort is the standout. He's trying a new startup idea for big business moves. He wants to make it in the world of tutorial tapes.
You know, YouTube tutorials minus the whole video aspect.
He wants to teach people how to DIY a base, which coincides perfectly with the base building mechanic that I need to learn. So I grab his tapes and head out to give it a go.
I want to get this out of the way. I liked Fallout 4 And I like the base building. I know, blasphemy. But I think if you are okay with Bethesda's jank and like their world building, you're probably in a similar boat to me.
All that to say, I also enjoy the simplicity of base building here, but there's one glaring elephant in the room. Look at all these options.
Nah. You need some IRL dollar reduce for all of that. The sheer amount of things behind a very early paywall is giving a slight ick.
Finish my basic shack on a hill build and keep pushing on.
Just a quick side note, Mort doesn't have a face for TV or a voice for these tapes.
So a steady hand and an eye for detainment.
I head to my first town, full of buildings, but in typical Bethesda fashion, most are just boarded up filler. I do come across a church and a diner though that introduce the first major faction and what will be the driving force for our main story, the Responders.
Former first responders whom, post the bombs dropping, continue to be a force for good, quelling the rise of monsters and destruction across Appalachia.
I do their tests, fetch quests in an MMO fashion between tapes and computer screens, learn to craft survival equipment, and after third quest in a row highlighting another dead former member, I become a full-fledged responder.
If I'm going to be honest, these early quests have bored me to my wit's end so far.
This is definitely the original style of storytelling they use, but then, mid-quest, a siren starts going off.
Get to the shelter, the nuke is coming.
I'm almost shell-shocked for a few seconds, but then the adrenaline kicks in and I start sprinting in the direction the map is pointing to, being ground zero.
I'm both terrified and giddy at the exact same time, but I never make it over the ridge to see the bombs actually drop. For the first time while playing this game today, something has excited me, and I vow to myself, I need to see one of these things go off before I'm finished with this game. I am going to call day 1 at 5 hours though.
Questing was a chore, but the setting is everything I hoped for, and someone out there just dropped a full-fledged nuke for fun.
Tomorrow I find out what this world has to show me, because if points of interest can't carry a Bethesda game, nothing will. If you've been following these videos at all, you'll notice that I have a few preferences in my video games.
But one of my biggest is exploration, and Bethesda, up until this point, had some of the best.
The Fallout and Elder Scrolls games would have mediocre main stories, but
A lot of the real memories came from stumbling upon quests, points of interest, or just interesting characters and items. This made exploration the key metric when playing a Bethesda game.
so my goal today is to hone in on that.
Now that I have a baseline, because if this game is lacking reasons to explore, whether that's from monetization, poor planning, or the multiplayer format, then this game has a large problem.
The overworld map makes it pretty easy to navigate.
It's littered with art icons and each one is a notable location worth visiting. I start branching west from Flatwoods, clearing places out, and the results are mixed. Some have separate interiors with actual stuff inside, others are just large hollow buildings with nothing to show for the trip. The best example of this is a mill I'm apparently supposed to be able to acquire as some kind of overworld resource system. But every time I try, the prompt tells me there are nearby enemies preventing it. I clear the zone, then I cleared again, then I cleared again. On my fourth sweep, I genuinely cannot figure out what I'm missing.
I can't tell if this is just Bethesda jank or if it's because I'm new and I'm missing something. In all honesty, it could be either one, so I get frustrated and move on.
So far, only some locations have lore attached worth finding. Others give you a stim pack and send you on your way. Some of the fun of the POIs in past games are named items or cool interactions. So far, that's lacking. I come across a train station with a robot vendor. I start offloading junk mid-transaction when I hear what I presume is a scorch I didn't take care of.
I was wrong.
I take a look and I get jump scared by another player.
I panic and spin back around to the vendor and pretend like I'm doing something important. I keep this straight up for much longer than I'd like to admit, then I check the overworld map to see if the coast is clear. I really don't know why I thought that if PvP was enabled, that would have saved my life. I did it though.
I didn't record this, but there was a donation box outside with some decent gear in it. I doubt this guy left it for me.
But what if he did? I'm starting to think I might have had the wrong first impressions of this multiplayer.
In regards to mobs and combat so far, it's been a mixed bag. Everything so far has been equalized to my level. Also, I experienced this weird millisecond delay on day 1
that I don't really feel anymore. Did I adapt to the timing or did I just get a better multiplayer instance?
The game has thrown the classic Fallout wildlife, the odd bandit variant, feral ghouls, and whatever a scorched is at me. They just seem like off-brand ghouls so far that could somehow still shoot weapons, but pushing north, I stumble across a new bandit variant. Cultists. It seems like these guys buff the scorched and ghouls around them, which makes them more of a threat, but more importantly, they drop good loot.
Suddenly I'm getting the loot rush that I would normally get from a great POI, but from a random boss mob spawn instead. The exploration rush is there, it's just coming from a different place than I expected. Eventually I hit the first major town.
highways, an airport, high school, and a university. I beelined straight to the university after seeing its name, Vault-Tec University. The place is crawling with robots and ghouls, but loaded with lore about the early days of the school as it prepped future Vault-Tec employees. They had a trial vault on campus. One of the experiments actually happened to be running right as the bombs dropped, so the students had no idea what was happening outside. In typical Fallout fashion, anarchy followed and everyone, well, died. I'm assuming there's a quest that opens this laser door up, as I ran around a couple times trying to find a switch to no avail.
I'm getting that feeling a lot today. You're seeing a condensed timeline, but I visited a lot of POIs on day 2. A good portion of them just didn't really have that much going on. No loot, no lore, really nothing. So I'm opting to believe that I'm just missing side quests that are going to take me back to these locations for better lore and loot.
As I make my final push to the airport for the main quest, something catches my eye. A giant flying creature circling the airport. A scorched beast.
I don't know what this is, but every battle so far has been way too easy, and this guy is over-leveled.
I start shooting, boss music kicks in, I'm excited for a challenging fight.
Then it just keeps flying away, and that hope disappears with it.
I enter the airport as the sirens go off for a world event. I see another player, and this time, instead of freezing, I just move in the opposite direction and start clearing mobs on my side of the building. It takes me an embarrassingly long time to realize I'm doing regular mob cleanup while 2 other players are running the actual event, but eventually I clue in, join them, and get the loot reward at the end.
And best of all, they didn't kill me. I think this solidifies that I overthought this multiplayer thing a little too much. These passing multiplayer experiences are amiable at worst.
I finish out the main quest at the airport, I get jump scared again, my second human NPC for the day.
Which is weird since I saw so many on day 1.
That is kind of the story of day 2, honestly. The world has POIs that carry the essence of the original games, like Vault-Tec University, but I also came across a crazy church with some lore, a Mothman cultist town, but the in-between is still feeling sparse and the POIs aren't consistently delivering the way I want them to. And this may just be because some of them are tied to future quests. Additionally, I can't forget I had some fun multiplayer experiences today with the train station and the world event. Now, is this because I might be a pussy? Yes. But these are a factor of the open world exploration that matter for the context of Fallout 76 specifically.
Tomorrow I'm going to stop wandering and start pushing the main quest properly. I have this impending anxiety that I won't get enough of the game done by the end of my review. Plus, I want to talk about something that I'm really enjoying, and it's a slight change than the norm: the leveling. I need to be honest, on the start of day 3, I'm stressing. I usually dedicate 15 to 20 hours to a revisit, see the improvements, then craft the script and edit the following week. That's usually more than enough time. The issue is, Fallout 76 is an MMO light of sorts and requires a lot more time investment. As someone who plays a dead MMO weekly, I know for a fact early content isn't where the new fun and revamps are added. Typically this is added to the mid-game and more than likely the end game.
I initially thought the endgame was level 25, so spending 2 days getting acquainted with the world felt justified, but then I log in on day 3 and see there's a paid skip straight to level 50.
Now I'm sweating a little bit, but by some chance of fate,
I get a comment on my last video from BattleTank21.
He mentions he just got back into 76 and has clocked 80 hours in the past couple of weeks. Okay, we've got an expert of sorts.
I ask him, is most of the fun locked in the endgame? I'm worried I won't make it there without farming Atom Coin. They respond promptly that I should start hopping into every public event I see to farm levels and gear, and that fun is found with friends.
Bless you, BattleTank21. But I can only do one of those things. I really need to get over my lobby anxiety and just throw myself into it.
I join the first event I see, and I have absolutely no idea what's going on. We are gathering glow slime from bugs and bringing it to the top of the tower for some reason, and then Mothman shows up. I didn't think Mothman was an actual moth. I thought it was like a silver shroud from Fallout 4, a vigilante with powers maybe.
But not an actual moth?
I table world events until I get more of a story bearing for the day and maybe a cup of coffee. As I return to the main story, I quickly begin learning what the Scorched actually are.
Cool, I've been genuinely curious about them.
Turns out that giant flying creature circling the airport yesterday, the Scorched Beast, carries a disease that when transferred to a human takes over their body, burns them inside out, but somehow leaves them with just enough mental control to pick up a weapon. Which explains why these off-brand ghouls constantly are peppering me with bullets. This quest takes me across the map to another city where I procure an inoculation to prevent the spread to humans. I then stumble upon a firefighter sect of the responders called the Fire Breathers, whom specialized in taking down the Scorched. The quest has me doing a foot race through a super mutant infested town as the physical exam, then raiding a Scorched infested mine to prove my worth.
This main quest still consists of all the original bones of Fallout 76, tapes, terminals, notes, but this stretch of it is a notch more fun than anything in the past 2 days.
The day is starting strong, now it's time to hop fully into world events. The first one I probably commit to is an abandoned mine shaft. There's a timer countdown, then we rush inside. I'm level 10, the boss is level 80, his minions are level 40. Thankfully, this event is stacked with people whose levels seem much higher than 80, so I do exactly what BattleTank21 said and tag mobs for XP. After a bunch of panic stimpaks, the boss goes down and I rush over to loot him.
I am notably the only person who seems to come over and do this, but then I noticed a quest marker. I was so focused on looting that I completely missed the epic music that started playing.
Because the whole mine is set to collapse and I need to get out. I start panicking. The escape timer has already been counting down for a minute and I've only just started running. But then I saw my guardian angel. This Krusty the Clown looking gent. Trunkle Bob is paused at the top of the shaft looking back down at me.
He might just be taking a quick piss break, but for the sake of the emotional beat, let's assume he's doing a heroic act. But to be fair, as soon as I pass him, he starts following along and helping me all the way up.
He even seems to be pointing me toward the exit. This random stranger waited for me to make sure I got out, or so it seems at least. I keep running these events. On my very next instance, on the same mine, I go down to a level 40 mob blocking the escape route. Timer ticking, I thought that was it. I mean, who was gonna stop for some random low level?
But almost immediately someone rushes over and revives me. It seems I've been wrong about this community. It's not even a hint of toxicity so far. These vets are just helping new players without even being asked.
I farm these events for the next several hours and jump from level 10 to level 25 in a single session. And these acts of friendliness continue throughout my day. And throughout all of it, in the background, for whatever reason, people keep setting nukes off in the same area.
This also happens to be the exact location of the mine event I keep doing. I think there's a correlation, but I don't know.
On day 1, I sprinted toward a nuke timer and never made it over the ridge. Today, one lands close enough that I can set up from a distance and finally watch it go off.
I think this probably would have been a little bit more picturesque if there wasn't a giant smoke cloud from the previous bomb drops, but I got to see it, and some primal part of me is very happy. Now, as promised, the leveling. It's one of the more interesting changes that they made, so I want to give some proper time to acknowledge it.
It's Gamba coded, so take that as you will. Every milestone level threshold gives you a card pack, skill cards, one rarer in the pack than the rest. These cards are perks. They sit under your different stats based on their category, and whatever level you have in the stat determines how many cards you can slot into it.
So level 9 lets you put 9 points of strength cards on said stat.
The beauty is in the mixing and matching. You can build for a specific playstyle, a specific task, or just a completely unhinged niche build you've been cooking up.
I never actually felt like I needed to spend any money on packs, but maybe that changes in the end game. I don't know.
Through my 25 hours, I had more cards than I knew what to do with, and that itch of opening a new pack never got old, but also never felt wild enough to drop money on it.
I end day 3 genuinely enjoying myself in a way that I just wasn't on day 1 or 2.
But I still haven't seen any endgame activities, and I'm still missing the hook at this point.
I've had some fun, of course. I just don't know if I've experienced anything that would make me want to keep playing this long term after the story's done.
There are people out there one-tapping everything in these events. There must be something that hooks them that I can't see yet.
Tomorrow the main focus is going to be pushing main story until I unlock expeditions, as this seems like the closest thing that I can get to for endgame material.
And I would love for the main story and world to be more interesting, as it feels like a lot of this original storytelling style I have heard about is present,
but it's presented in such a dull way that I'm not excited to learn more about it. I don't know if that makes any sense. Today, I need to lock in. I have a certain set of goals that I want to accomplish before I'm done with the game, and my time with it is ticking down.
Plus, I need to meet up with the ghoul before I wrap this up.
I will not forget that.
I followed the trail of the last fire breather to the top of the world, a ski resort sitting at the peak of a mountain.
As I get to the top, I get radioed by an individual by the name of Rose. They tell me that they won't let me in until I do a few favors for them.
In all of my experiences so far, Rose is the most intriguing sounding NPC from the main story.
There's a very tiny Tina energy to her, and she puts me through a very unhinged series of tasks.
Making bait explosives, crafting a trank gun for bears, then upgrading for a deathclaw. That last one required me to get a hug from a deathclaw, which I assumed meant just taking one out, then hugging it.
I continue to be wrong.
I had to shoot it with a trank, wait for it to charge at me, and then hug it in the last second. I did this, some NPCs started attacking it coincidentally at the exact same time, which gave me enough space to finish it off. Rose then sends me to slay a ghoul for some reason and implies I should eat it. I did it with a cannibal perk. Pairing this with another perk meant eating humanoids post-battle kept me permanently fed, hydrated, and healed.
I didn't feel great about how effective that was though.
This process of running Rose's errands, I am also noticing something shifting.
Mobs don't seem to be dying immediately anymore. The training wheels seem to have fallen off around level 25, so combat is starting to push back. And because of this, I'm having significantly more fun.
I also stumbled across another player's base while looking for a crafting table. I was in and out quickly, but I did see some cool automation on a farm that made me want to revisit the base building properly at some point. Past this base was the refuge. This was the unlock requirement for the expeditions. This place is massive, 2 floors filled with NPCs both alive and robotic.
Finally, somewhere that actually feels like it has some life in it.
The top floor is a quest hub for expeditions. The bottom floor is a fully decked out player hub with everything you could need. After doing some preliminary quests with human NPCs,
Not robots.
I get invited to join and unlock my first expedition. Before I head out, I track the Overseer's radio signal to her house and we finally meet in person. I was fully expecting another robot reveal to match the main story's trend, but no, human.
She just has a robot lover of sorts. I think this is Howard. I don't think Bob's gonna like this.
She tasked me with welcoming new settlers and helping inoculate them against the scorched disease,
Which pushes me towards more human populations on the outskirts of the map. The story is finally getting good. There are factions and communities and actual people, and
I'm genuinely intrigued for the first time.
but I have an expedition to do.
I fly to the pit, short for Pittsburgh, and get 2 options on arrival, Industrial District or the Trench. I take the Trench. I'm tasked with clearing radiation in a no-go zone and immediately get introduced to 2 new enemy types.
There's the fanatics who seem like unhinged bandit variants, and then there's the trogs, or devolved humans via radiation that crawl on all 4s and spit acid.
The trogs and the crypts specifically are deeply unsettling for me because dark, close quarters, and crawling on all 4s.
I am squeamish though, so take that with a grain of salt.
The expedition is shooting heavy and genuinely fun for a while.
The problem is, I think it's going to be the same quest every single time.
There are 2 locations, the Pit and Atlantic City, each with 2 sub-options. If those variants play out identically every run, this content is going to get old fast.
Then the distress call comes in from Ohio. Turns out the westernmost region of the map is the state of Ohio.
I cross through Mothman Town over a bridge and have to fight my way through a giant stronghold with 2 very difficult bosses.
Like genuinely difficult. I went from one-tapping nearly every single mob in the game to unloading a whole magazine into these power armor enemies and barely even giving them a scratch.
I make it through and follow the signal. It was bait. I get ambushed, knocked out, and wake up as a prisoner of the Rust King, a hulking super mutant in rusted armor who wants me to fight for his entertainment. He throws me into a stadium to face his minions and a Deathclaw.
And this Deathclaw is significantly above my level and power.
I die, I respawn, I cheese the spawn point, I die again. This goes on for 30 minutes before I finally grind it down. The Rust King lets me go, but tells me he'll be watching me. I have no idea what that means, and I'm choosing not to think about it.
What I will say here is unexpected based on my first day's experience.
A kidnapping, a pit fight, a threatening boss, interesting characters, plus the Overseer missions to ingratiate new populations to this wasteland.
The game's characters and stories are starting to ramp up just as I'm tapping out of this video.
I'm thinking my theory that the farther I get out from the center, the better it gets may be right on the money. I make it to Highway Town and there he is, Walton Goggins, the ghoul. I met him on the very first step outside of Vault 76 on day 1 and carried his quest the entire run. He tells me he's a bounty hunter.
Well, I kind of knew that. I've seen your show.
But he says the lower level jobs aren't worth his time anymore, so he's going to hire me to handle them.
And like that, I work for the ghoul. With nearly 25 hours in Appalachia, finishing off at level 32, that last session somehow makes me not want to stop playing. But as I tap out, what's the final verdict? So, 8 years later, has Fallout 76 improved dramatically? I think that comes down to you.
In those 25 hours, I got a baseline, explored the world, dabbled in base building, pushed the main story, and eventually threw myself into multiplayer world events and an expedition. I reached level 32, but didn't crack the full endgame at 50+. I note this because it was pretty clear that the bones of launch Fallout 76 are still visible at the fresh spawn, which notably I opted in for. But as I progressed the story and started branching outwards from the center of the map, I started feeling a hook that just wasn't there for the first 2.5 days.
The game is an MMO light of sorts. I say that as someone who plays one every single week, and I don't mean that as an insult, just more of a descriptor of the type of gameplay you might come across in Fallout 76.
The Fallout DNA is genuinely in there alongside it, the setting, the lore, the environmental storytelling, but mix in some multiplayer instance jank, modern monetization, dailies, basic fetch quests, but also some fun multiplayer events and mysterious endgame raids.
Then you've got Fallout 76.
I had problems with the early area. It's essentially a starter zone from a MMO, a dumbed down version of the actual game designed to get your bearings. It just felt weird in the Fallout format. What makes it worse is that this is where most of the original bones of its launch are still sitting.
Push outwards though, and in every single metric, the game gets better.
New mobs, more interesting quests, actual factions with actual people in them, and a community that, at least in my time spent dabbling with their content, seemed quite nice and friendly.
Also, it seems like some sort of story mode difficulty is enabled until level 25.
Then spawns seem to increase and mobs start to become notable, but that's also where legendary gear starts factoring into build, and their interesting change to skill trees come into play to make the build you want.
Is it as in-depth as their single-player worlds? No.
Does it have the monetization plastered everywhere you would expect from a live service game? Absolutely. Fallout First subscriptions, Atom Shop, Battle Pass, level skip, it's all there and it's all visible pretty early on.
It didn't bother me that much personally, but I know this type of thing is a big turnoff to a lot of people, and I think it'd be a great service if I made this whole video and didn't mention that this is a big part of this game, like a really big part.
I tried my hardest to get to endgame. I thought level skip was 1,000 atoms, so I was actively doing quests for it the whole time. Turns out it was 1,500 and I just never got there. I bring this up because the vets I was running events with were one-tapping everything around me, and there must be content designed for them that I just never witnessed.
Because one-tapping things can't be that much fun, especially when you're doing it over and over and over again. I have heard that there is endgame raids, I just don't know what they look like and what the difficulty is like. Is this the draw for vets? Is the endgame raids the big thing for you? Is this what keeps you coming back week after week? I saw people with like thousands of levels. It has to be something, right? And I think that's the one thing I'm missing from this video is the exact hook on that endgame. And I'm sad that I won't be able to see that in this video at least.
What I can say is I didn't have a great time my whole playthrough. The start was truly lackluster, but these last 2 days had me genuinely intrigued in a way I wasn't expecting after my first day. If you like the Fallout universe and you can stomach some of the jank a Bethesda title online will be pestered with,
I think you might have a decent time with it. Once again, I never made it to level 50, but in the end,
Day 4 was a blast for me. I think that same experience would be excruciating for some players though, but I was enjoying it. The main issue is how long will that last for?
I don't know. I genuinely do not know.
But I feel like it's apparent based on Day 4 though that the game has made strides since launch,
And if some of the latter stuff that I experienced intrigued you, then maybe Fallout 76 has done enough for you. I don't know. That's how I'm ending this. If you enjoy this content, a like or a hype goes a long way for a channel like mine.
I know this game is contentious, so any boost is appreciated. And maybe I eventually come back and finally push to endgame to see that side of it.
Or subscribe for my next video that comes in just under 2 weeks from today. I can't say much right now, but I am visiting one of my favorite sci-fi series in a video game. I am quite excited right now. Until next time, my name is Easy Break. Toodaloo.